Right, the time now is 5 to 9. And if you were listening to the programme last week, you might have heard us talk to Andy Peterson. Andy is 55 years old. He's from Clackmannanshire, and he is doing something really rather remarkable. He's cycling between the 4 compass points of the UK, from the furthest south to the furthest east to the furthest north to the furthest west. 2,500 kilometres in all, and he's doing it to raise funds for research into bowel cancer in honour of the former Scotland rugby captain Tom Smith, who died from the disease back in April. He's been cycling without any backup through the day and through the night. This is day 7, and he joins us now. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Martin. How are you?
Massively better than you, I'd imagine. I should just tell listeners, Andy texted me this morning in the early hours to tell me that he could do this interview. He had just arrived in Inverness. That was 1:45 this morning. He has a tracker on his bike, and I'm looking at the map now, and he's almost at the end of Loch Ness already. You've done, what, 30-odd miles already today?
Something like that, yeah. 4 Augustus, I can almost see it.
How much sleep last night?
A couple of hours.
That's a lie-in for you by this week's standards, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, listen, we make light of that, but you've done this through the hottest days in British history. How's it been?
Well, that was quite tough because through the whole programme, it meant I lost half a day down in Lincolnshire, whenever it was, day 3. And I had to catch it up. And unfortunately, the only time I could catch it up on was sleep. And with the heat, I had to cycle through the night a couple of times. So basically, I went from Lincoln to Edinburgh in a day to catch up, and then Edinburgh up to Brora, and then yesterday I was in Dunnet Head, and I'll be at Ardnamurchan Point tonight, I hope.
It's quite unbelievable. I mean, just these kind of names wash over people because you're not looking at a map. Lincoln to Brora in 2 days is 500 miles. Much of it at night, much of it, even though it's at night, in the mid-20s, in the pitch dark. You knew it was going to be hard, right? But is it harder than you thought it was going to be? Oh, presumably it is, given the circumstances.
Absolutely, just about holding everything together. But what's been amazing is the kindness of people. I mean, people popping up in the middle of the night at the side of the road saying, I've been tracking you, and just keep going and giving me food. And I mean, in the Scottish borders, had Gregor Townsend, the Scottish rugby coach.
Yeah, he jumped out on you in the middle of the night.
Exactly. I know. We'll leave it at that. My favourite one, though, was a woman down in England who, again, in the middle of the night, jumped out, stopped me and said, Andy, and I pulled over, and she said, Bobo, are you the cyclist? Looking at me.
because you are by your own admission 55-year-old 15-stone rugby referee Andy Peterson. You're not kind of one of the gazelles you see in the Tour de France, but you're doing pretty much double what the Tour de France cyclists are doing on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Right,
something like that. I don't need to go fast. I just need to go.
Yeah, well, you have been going.
Keep going.
You've barely stopped. Just the serious stuff. Tell us why you're doing this.
So doing it to raise awareness of bowel cancer and to raise funds for bowel cancer research. And again, when I speak to people at the side of the road, the number of them that have been touched by bowel cancer, which is the biggest killer of non-smokers in the UK. So we're raising it in memory of Tom Smith, Scottish rugby legend, and we're funding a full-time research fellow into the genetics of hereditary bowel cancer. And we're almost there for the 100,000, actually. I had a look this morning. We're about 74,000 on the website, and there's another 20,000 in pledges and donations. So
Brilliant.
Almost there.
And you say you're doing it in memory of Tom Smith, and I know you are. He was a friend, but you're also doing it for a very personal reason, aren't you?
Yeah, my father died of colon cancer, bowel cancer as well. Again, classic male, ignored the symptoms and presented when it was too late. And he's buried about 2 miles from the finish today in Kilchoan Cemetery in Ardnamurchan. So we'll pop in there just before the finish, and I'm sure it'll be quite emotional. And then go at the finish, have a few pictures taken, and then sleep.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Listen, what a moment that's going to be just between you and the old man this evening. It is something absolutely remarkable you've done. So what time do you reckon you're going to get into Ardnamurchan?
At this rate, I think about 6 o'clock, I think. So it's amazing. Fresh legs this morning when the end's in sight. And I know these roads backwards as well. So
yeah.
And it's absolutely beautiful. And it's cool. The sun's not shining, which is brilliant too.
Does it help, Andy, do you think, knowing literally it's downhill now, in terms of the end being in sight?
It does, although ironically, the last 50 miles through the Ardnamurchan Peninsula are some of the hilliest and worst that I'll do. But I remember you did ask me about my nutrition, and I can tell
I've
you.
been worried about that. Yeah, what have you been eating?
I did my proud. I did people proud in the pork pie front. I must have done 60 or 70 pork pies. Everyone who stopped me at the side of the road had pork pies, but yeah, I'd just been chewing through a mountain of rubbish. I have to say.
I saw Andy in Kinross.
My specialist subject would be motorway service meal deals.
I saw Andy in Kinross yesterday morning. He stopped for about 30 seconds to chat to a few of us. He had a roll with what looked like about 5 sausages inside it. So
Got a nutritionist in sight.
the calories are going to... Listen, Andy, we're 20 seconds from the end of the programme. I'm going to have to leave you to it. Keep those legs pumping.
No
You've
problem.
done something remarkable, my friend. Congratulations to you.
Thank
So
you
many
very much,
people are
both of
behind you.
Brilliant stuff.
Andy Peterson there.
That's it from us for this morning. It's time to hand over to Stephen.
Well, do you know what? Normally I don't like it when you go past 9 o'clock and take any of my time, but you could have gone on and on talking to that guy. I mean, what a genuine hero he is, isn't he?
100%.
Humbling to listen to him.
Fueled by pork pies as well.
And if you're near where he is today, go out and give him a clap as he goes past, because he deserves it, doesn't he?
Indeed, he does. He has done something absolute. He told me, Stephen, at the start of all this, it was a big challenge. And the only point in doing a big challenge, when you want to raise a serious amount of money, you've got to do something that is so hard you don't know if you're going to complete it. He could never have known how hard this was actually going to be, given the weather and everything else. And he is well on track. He's got 135 miles he's going to cycle today, and for him, that's a half day.
He makes it sound like nothing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What a totally brilliant bloke. Thanks for bringing us that story this morning. And for Good Morning Scotland, we're just after 9 o'clock on BBC Radio Scotland.